everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
There are no technical issues. You can hear me properly. You can see me properly. Yeah,
Can
all
hear
good, huh?
you loud and clear.
Wow. Okay. For me, I think we should have started this seminar or this webinar long time ago, even before phase 2 happened. Yeah, because now our owners might be dealing with like the consequences as opposed to doing taking steps to prevent certain behaviors that they do not wish to. But anyway, I'm happy that people are attending this webinar and paying attention to that there's actually some change that is going through to our canine friends, when especially in light of this post circuit breaker and still with this ongoing pandemic and all these work from home adjustments. I mean, Kimi, yourself, thanks for joining us, by the way, as a live face that I can talk to.
Yep. And this is Taco. Hi, Taco.
Hi, Taco.
Hi. Just wake up from his nap.
Okay. So, looking at the poll, right, how would you have answered that question? Is your dog energy level low, medium, high, or super high?
Mine super high, although he doesn't look like it now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I think he just woke up from his afternoon nap, right?
Yeah, really just woke up. Yeah, correct, correct.
So everybody who is attending, I invite you all to really just take a look at the poll question and answer them accordingly. Feel free to kind of spam the Q&A, especially if you agree or disagree with some of the things that I'm making also. Yeah, somebody's asking where's the poll. So, Kai, are you able to point them out?
Yes.
Like if they miss it?
So the poll, if you guys can actually see in the panel. All right. How about this?
Yeah.
I will actually address them in the chat.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so that we don't disrupt your
send it to them.
content.
Yeah. So I just want to have a preliminary understanding of your dog's energy, or your understanding of your dog's energy, whether you're right or wrong, that doesn't matter. Because this is part of 3 parts of a series. And the first part, I've put it in a way in which first we learn to recognize as well as acknowledge. Then the second part, we learn to address. And then the third part, we learn about maintaining. So today's topic is about knowing or getting to know your CB dog. I mean, no pun intended. I'm actually quite surprised that Workwell and Just Go let me play around with this CB term. So I do notice, and in a way, because CB has a very funny representation, and I'm sure it also represents what you feel about the whole circuit breaker, owners alike. So firstly, I want to address how do you people feel when you are doing the circuit breaker yourselves? How does it feel like when you're at home? Or I will use the word stuck at home in the human terms. Kimi, you want to share a little bit of how this whole work from home thing?
How should I put it? It just felt so enclosed. Like, you know, a lot of things that we have been doing in the past, just realized that we have been taking it for granted that we can go out freely. I can walk my dog freely, even without like, you know, wearing a mask right now and stuff. The first time I remember I wearing my mask, trying to walk him, my dog was just looking at me like, you know, what are you trying to do? So, yeah, things is really different. Little things that we enjoy, we realize that we have been taking it for granted. Yeah.
From a third person's point of view, I'll tell you, good. And on behalf of speaking on behalf of your dogs, right, to many dog owners, I will tell you, good. For the first time, humans are experiencing what it feels like to be stuck at home. And actually, this is an issue which is facing a lot of dogs since the day in which we bring our dogs home, right? Because come to think of it, we humans, we live kind of in a box in the dog sense, right? You brought the dog. Sometimes people buy the dog from a shop, or people adopt they come from a cage. So that itself is a box. And then we transport that dog to our urban human environment. And to think of it, we live in a box as well. Even right now, our screen looks like a box. So to a dog, we humans live different lives. We live from box to box. We go from one place, an indoor place. We travel in a box, which is your car, and then we end up in another box. And even if we expose our dogs to nature itself, it is in the confines of a play or a big box, to think of it. So I want everybody to kind of take a second to think about how it felt like, or rather, what are the challenges that you've met, as well as the changes in your personality when you're going through the circuit breaker or stay at home. Because I've experienced not only changes in my dog, even my dog as well, but also I've experienced changes in myself as well. Number one, firstly, circuit breaker hit us. So you got your dog back home, right? You took leave, you probably took care of your dog. And then suddenly 1 week later, you started to have to go away, right? So that is a sudden change. Now, circuit breaker was a sudden change for us. Suddenly we had to stay at home. So it's confinement, right? So this changes, if it affects us, what more can it do? As in, how much more can you imagine it would do to a sensitive animal like our dogs, right? So firstly, the thing about circuit breaker is it hit us suddenly. And the changes that we experience within our human society as well, you might have noticed that people, domestic abuse cases ran up. You might even experience it within your own relationship. You might be quarreling a little bit more or going through a bit more disagreements with your housemates, your parents, or your kids, right? So a lot of people have been complaining about their kids as well. So everybody is experiencing the same thing, including our dogs. Now, from moving from this human way of experiencing changes, what are the key things that have happened to our dogs? Now, I would like to go into a little bit of the common behavioral problems that we have addressed, that we have experienced. But I want to address first, because I can't cover all behavioral problems, right? I'll go through the concepts first. So I want to take you through a journey of first being able to analyze your dog, which is something in which I always encourage my human clients to do, which is first you have to understand your dog. Even before we talk about going through obedience, even if you have done multiple trainings with your dog, always take a step back and look at your dog and kind of analyze from a third person's point of view, how is he or she doing? So which is why the poll question is just very simply, what is the energy level of your dog? So Kimi, you mentioned that your dog was, you analyze it as, sorry?
Extremely high.
Extremely high. So what are the signs of an extremely high energy level?
Okay, or rather, it's not extremely high all the time, but it's most of the time. So he can self-play, running around the house.
Self-high.
Yeah, throwing the toy and catching it by himself. Just keep playing for non-stop of 20 minutes maybe. Then after you tire himself, then he will come back again. And he's always, the moment that he realizes that there's a movement from me, then he'll be on his toe and, trying to find out what am I doing. The tail is always non-stop. And when it's come to food, that is like extremely high, maybe times 10. That's worse because he's very food driven. So maybe I will share the same question as the dog owner as well, that, it's not extremely high all the time. So maybe you can tell us that, how do I even classify my dog energy? Because there's always high and low at different times. So how do I know that my dog is an extremely high or extremely low energy dog?
Yeah. So my question to you, right, would be to ask yourself, what actually drains my dog's energy? Or rather, how long do I have to walk your dog in order for his energy to go down?
Okay. That's a very good question because
Yeah.
I have never reached that level that his energy is down every time we
Uh-huh.
end the walk. So it's always,
Okay.
yeah, the energy is still very high.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, unless he met some friends along the way,
Yeah.
unless he start playing a lot, then maybe. But it's never certain.
Okay. Actually, I wouldn't classify your dog as extremely high, right? Because I'm pretty sure. Now, just go along with me on this. If I were to walk, tell me how you walk your dog. Does your dog zigzag? Does your dog walk in front of you?
Usually it starts pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And
Then it goes into a zigzag, because you need to find his favorite spot
yes.
and the pee and poo. And after that, okay, it will back to normal again.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would say it's a 50-50. So it will start with normal, then you start zigzagging, find the
Yeah.
right spot. Then after he's done with his business, then you start walking normal again. Then he will
Yes.
start finding, because my dog has a habit of doing it like twice in a walk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then you will back to normal. Then we will
Yeah.
run home. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
We will
I
run
pause you
home.
there. I pause you there. Now, a lot of people who have I love your example. I love having you as an example, because a lot of people, when they first saw the poll question, they think about the times in which their dog is, doing all that self-high. They call it like the F1 zoom. Some of my clients tell me that, or they tell me that the dog, no matter how long they walk, it doesn't tire the dog out, right? So my question to you actually open up the Pandora box of all these things that you're describing to me, in which, if we look at it from a psychological point of view, right, actually you're dealing with excitement.
Mm-hmm.
You're not dealing with energy level, right? Because I'm pretty sure, just like a lot of clients who have told me that they have a high level energy dog, right, that if I were to take your dog and if I were to walk your dog like a grandmother, if I make it compulsory for your dog to not be able to zigzag, it can only stay on one side of me, right? And I give it a very calm grandmother pace to the walk. I can tell you, I can drain your dog's energy in 15 minutes as opposed to you doing your normal walk for half an hour. The reason being is because I am focusing on your dog's mental energy. Now,
Okay.
we have to, so this is where I'm going to start talking about not only energy levels, because energy levels, I mean, to be fair, I asked you a very, very open question, right? Because there are different energy levels and there are different types of energy. We're talking about mental as well as physical energy, right? Now, when I hear your not complaints, but how you describe it, right? Your dog is in a very excited state of mind. So the excited state of mind would tell me that your dog has a high mental energy.
Okay.
Yeah. But physical energy, if you tell me it only takes about like the zoom for about 5 minutes and then he's flat out, right? Unlike a husky who can go on for 50 minutes or 1.5 hours on a cooling day, that's different.
Okay.
Yeah? You get what I'm saying? So when I talk about different energy levels, I'm also talking about mental levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to focus on the structure and the balance of the lifestyle that we have for our dog. Because
Okay.
sometimes you might have brought in a dog who is naturally calm and naturally low level energy, but because of the type of activities that we do, or or even the lack of activities that we do for that dog, from a low energy level dog, he or she can become medium or high or super high.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes this escalation of levels of energy happens unknowingly, and it happens in a way in which it starts to bottle up and it turns into behavioral problems, which, for instance, can be chewing, can be nosiness, it can be a bit of, so when I talk about nosiness, it just means that the dog goes very close to meeting another dog or jumping on a human, right? These are all excitement, but is not actually the energy level, natural energy level per se, right? Because we have to understand that when we look at a dog, right, we can't just classify, oh, Beagle, high energy. Jack Russell, also super high energy. And then I look at a Golden Retriever, no, low energy. No, it doesn't work that way. Because in my line of work, I've seen many who are frustrated or overexcited Golden Retrievers, then who are mistakenly being classified as high energy. But in fact, I see it as frustration, or I see it as a lack of structure, right? So to put it all together, right? Firstly, when I talk about levels of energy, I'm actually asking about your dog's natural level of energy, right? So if you tell me that, yes.
Maybe you can give us some example, like, what kind of actions that we see that
Yes.
you will actually let us know that, okay, my dog is a high energy dog, but it's not just behaving that way because he's excited.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you can give us some example.
So you have to, during this whole circuit breaker period, you will have the chance to actually observe the daily routine of your dog, right? So usually dogs naturally, they'll get excited in the beginning of the day, right? Afternoon, they will tend to laze around. And then at the end of the day, they might reach a time in which they get a little bit more playful before they settle in for the night. Yeah. So if your dog follows this natural progression of things, right, you don't have a high energy level dog.
Really?
Let's start with elimination first. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you tell me that your dog naps, your dog knows how to detach and stay on his own, right? And just forget about everything. And only when there's food around, then he wakes up and then he comes to you, right? That's not high energy level. Right? If he follows you around the house, that's also not high energy levels. So let's start with the baseline. The baseline is medium activity in the morning, then lower activity in the afternoon, and then in the evening, medium to high level of activity or engagement at least. Yeah. So that's our natural way too, because we humans, we also have slightly more energy in the morning, and some of us who are night owls, right, we have more energy in the evening. Yeah. So if your dog deviates from there, right? So now, like a medium level energy dog would be more interested in engaging with the humans or engaging with other dogs, right? So, but the medium energy level dog would still have the ability to shut off. Yeah. But just that, the way in which he's interacting with all these humans and dogs is more of an excited way, right? So it's not calm, it's not totally calm. Like some dogs whereby, a good example would be senior dogs, right? Those are low, those are more or less for sure low energy levels, right? So in which you see the social interactions, even though a young dog might be going through them, they still remain calm, right? A medium level energy won't do that. A medium level energy dog would engage because they do need a little bit of that engagement. So you're talking about a semi-extrovert. Yeah. Okay, that's medium level energy. Yeah. Low, medium, these are actually quite good energies to have. Now, the more challenging energy types, right, would be your high and super high, right? High and super high, the only difference to me is that the super high has no structure. Whereas the high level energy dog, right? An example would be like a working dog. For example, if you, I would use professional examples like the canine dogs first, sniffer dogs, beagles, or if you look overseas, dogs who go hunting, right? Sled dogs. Those are classified as high level dogs, high level energy dogs. Now, however, right? If you buy a beagle, or you help rescue a husky, right? At the start, you might not see the high level energy.
Okay.
Yeah, because right, they're still adapting to your environment. But you will soon realize that there's no way for you to drain that energy.
Okay.
With our normal human, to be honest, boring lives, right?
Okay.
Because these are dogs who are meant for work.
Mm-hmm.
So when dogs are like these, because I've worked with canine police dogs before. Now these dogs, their energy level, there's no high, and then there's no low, and then there's high again. No, they're meant, that is as if they're operating at optimum energy level all the time. So they're always alert, right?
Okay.
They are always ready to work.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're always ready to engage, whether it's with dogs or with humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now, a lot of the times, right, because I've talked about like the difference in terms of your environment, sometimes it does push up the energy level of your dog.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's no right or wrong. It doesn't mean that your dog, as if it's a low energy level dog, right, then you will always have a low energy level dog. No.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, bringing back to this whole CB period, right, you will notice that there are physical and mental changes to your dog, right?
Okay.
And to me, I would classify, if the changes are worse, that means it is definitely negative. Like, for example, chewing, frustration. All this is frustration. If your dog is starting to pester you more, right, that's boredom. Yeah. Anything that's got to do with the human, right, that's boredom. Now, I have also clients who have dogs who are already having a little bit of social issues, who might be slightly snappy. Now, this whole CB period, because of the lack of interaction with other humans, because of the lack of activities as well, right, they can turn into a little bit of aggression. And when I talk about lack of activity, right, it's not just about the like physical activity, because some of my clients, right, they do actually walk the dogs because they know that they have a dog that is medium level or high energy level, right? So they know that the dog needs the exercise. So during the whole circuit breaker period, right, they actually up the amount of exercise that they do for the dog. From 3 walks a day, they do 5 walks a day.
Mm-hmm.
But my question would be, now there are physical and mental aspects to fulfill for your dog. Fine, you're doing 3 or you're doing 5 walks instead of 2 or 3 walks a day. You're upping the physical fulfillment for your dog. But what about the mental aspect? Now, a lot of us forget about that, because 5, if I make you do the same thing, or I make you drive around Singapore 5 times a day, you're gonna get bored. So some of my clients, even though they increase the exercise, they increase the activity, because there's no, and unfortunately, because of this whole circuit breaker and social distancing, there is not enough interactions.
Mm-hmm.
There is not enough, because they are pack animals, right? There's no integration. There's no integrating element to it, in which they might have before a circuit breaker, right? Now, all these things have a negative impact on the mental energy, which is why the second part of the web series, I want to address how do you keep your dog mentally stimulated, right? Not only physical.
Okay, question, Ethan. You
Yes.
mentioned about walks. Okay, this is actually also something that I was very concerned. Before CB period,
Yes.
I usually have 1 walk a day. It's either in the morning or either in the evening time. So rarely I can walk my dog, morning and evening time. So when the CB started, you have all the time. So I thought, okay, I can just walk him morning and evening time. And I've been doing that, close to like a month. Then I started to think, what if he's so used to 2 walks a day, and when CB is over and I'm gonna back to normal again, what is the tendency, that the dog, how do I get used to it? Or do you think that it will actually cause any negative impact to him? Or maybe he will started to, because he was actually being trained that, if there's a walk, he will definitely do his business outside. but we
Yes.
actually have a pea pen, you know, at home. So if he needs to, he can still settle his business. Then I realized that when I started walking him twice a day, he
Yeah.
stopped doing that.
Yes,
That's a
because
bit
you gave him the option.
yeah, but I'm just
Yeah.
worried that what if I take that option away? Will he start to like hold it then? And then will I start creating uh, a not so good habit for him that he will hold it until that, you know, I bring him walk, then he start doing his business. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your
So
opinion? Yeah.
unfortunately, when you go back to the normal routine or the old routine, right?
Yeah.
That your dog will definitely be a little bit confused as well,
Yeah.
right? But it's the same thing that you did when you upped the number of times in which you walked in,
Yeah.
right? Just that now it's reversed. And to be honest, my view is that dogs are much more adaptive than human beings. Yeah, so
Okay.
you can change routines, you can change their names, you can change your commands anytime that you want, right? And they will still be able to adapt. Now, sometimes the human worries too much.
Really? Okay.
Yes, correct. So for me, if we look at the changes that we're doing for our dog, right? Structure wise, right? There are always changes for the better or changes for the worse, right? For me, the walk, right, shouldn't be classified as a toilet walk. Yeah. So I
Okay.
wouldn't tie in the number of times in which my dog goes to the toilet with the number of walks, right?
Okay.
Because you can always decide and you have the power to do so, right? That even though you increase the number of walks, right, you don't let your dog toilet so frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It becomes a marking habit. So sometimes they do develop this when you give them a lot of options. Yeah. So be very mindful about what is your purpose of that walk. Yeah. Because if you only have the mind of having a toilet for the walk, right? Then that shouldn't be the way, because to me the walk is an exercise activity. It's the most primal activity in which you can do for a dog to drain energy. Yeah. So I will ask about the quality of the walk. I know we're gonna go into Q&A soon. Yeah, but I want to always. I actually think that 1 hour is a bit too short.
It's okay. We can always
because there are problems like, for example, separation anxiety that I've been touched on, and the attachment in which have caused our dogs to have during this comment. But I'll see whether some of the issues we can address during the Q&A. Yeah, maybe we try to pick out some of the questions that relate to that. But I'm talking about like quality of structure, right? So a lot of people, when they move from having a very structured life before COVID, right? There's always a fixed timing in which they go to work. There's always a fixed timing in which they leave the dog alone. So that's like the downtime for the dog. Yeah. Right? I mean, let's not talk about problematic dogs. Let's talk about your normal dogs first. So then after that, you come home and then you have an activity as well. So everything is very nicely structured. It might not have been that way when they were puppies, but eventually you put them into that structure. Now, COVID kind of swept everything away and said, nope, now freedom for dogs. The owners are going to be at home all the time. So if you represent food for your dog, food is going to be present for your dog every time. If you represent attention for your dog, or physical affection for your dog, the dog's going to know that physical affection is now 24/7, right? And then if you start walking your dogs a lot, then the dog's going to think, I don't need to pee all the time, right? So now maybe I can poop, knowing that later, right, when my owner brings me down for like the 4th walk of the day, I can pee again. Yeah. So look at the quality of changes of your structure. Now, there's no harm in gradually starting to change it back to the normal way. Yeah. And I wouldn't view as increasing the number of walks as a entirely beneficial way of exercising your dog. I would advise owners to, instead of increasing the number of walks that you have, why not just change the routes of your walk, right? Don't ever stick to the same routes. Even on my normal daily walks, right, I try to randomize. Sometimes I go in the opposite direction. Sometimes I'll make a different turn. Sometimes I'll purposely walk past my house. right? Sometimes I would not start the walk in my home. I'll take the car and drive somewhere. And then now that phase 2 has kicked in, we have that luxury.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the
Because
purpose of doing that, okay, sorry.
Yes.
The
Sorry, I can
purpose
go
of
on and on.
no worries. I think we can address this. Like try to sum it out. Then we can go into some of the Q&A that if there are other people that ask me. But my last question is: so the purpose of doing that is so that we don't really have a structure for the dog itself, like what you say,
No.
changing the direction, the walk.
No, the purpose is to keep my dog kind of mentally stimulated.
Okay.
Right? Structure is always going to be there. The way in which I walk my dog is always going to be there. My dog is supposed to be by my side, not too much sniffing, right?
Mhm.
Following more as opposed to sniffing, right? So the structure is always going to be there. But the variety or the stimulation, if I keep the same route all the time, my dog's not going to be stimulated. He knows
Okay.
exactly what's around the corner.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm talking about mental stimulation. So even though we are confined, right, we should still have the luxury to pursue different options, different places to keep our dogs not thinking that we are living in a pandemic situation. Because sometimes what you feel during the walk, you can actually project onto the dog. If you feel bored during the walk, your dog's gonna feel bored as well. If you feel embarrassed or you feel frustrated, your dog's also going to feel that way.
Okay.
They are that sensitive.
Okay. Okay.
So if you are damn sian about COVID, then yeah, your dog's gonna definitely feel it.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So.
Okay. Can
Yeah. Probably take back to the Q&A. Yeah.
Yes. Let's go back to the Q&A and see. Kai?
Yeah. Okay, before we actually go to the Q&A section, I think we have a second question for the polling.
Okay, so before
we're just waiting for...
before the question goes out, right?
Yeah.
I want owners to think about whether, firstly, the dogs during circuit breaker have been different. So some of the differences for in my case, right, was that my dog demanded a little bit more attention because I'm always there, right? Even during meal times in which she never came to the dining table, right? Now she was starting to test because dogs are always going to be curious. They're always going to not only curious about what you have, but also curious as to whether the rule that used to exist still exists. Yeah. So sometimes, and also I realized that my dogs, when they play with me, right, when I tug, there's a little bit more bite to it. Yeah. So that gives me as to like, oh, it's almost like when you have more energy, right? Or people who play golf or do sports, when they have more energy, they can actually swing better or harder. So a dog is gonna bite better. So the play is gonna be rougher. Yeah. So sometimes all these little changes are small elements to changes in your dog's energy levels, right? Or if you're not paying too much attention to all this, it could actually be frustration. Yeah, and frustration usually comes out or manifests itself in terms of behavioral problems, chewing, destruction, anti-socialization, like suddenly not very friendly with the friends in the neighborhood dog friends. So yes, it can happen too. So if you hear all these switches, maybe your answer for the second poll will be different. So I want to do the poll again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, the
now
poll
there's
is
an
up.
extra option.
Okay.
For those of you who can't see the poll, just in case if there's any technical error, please let us know in the chat.
We will review the results of this poll, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can review it.
We want to see.
So
a while.
Sorry.
Yes.
So while they are doing the poll, right? So can I say that so like a little bit of aggression towards the friends around the neighborhood, the doggy, the fur friends itself, or become extremely clingy. Like, last time my dog can just sit at a corner and mind his own business.
Yeah.
Now every time I sit down, he will come and must sit next to me or even touching to me now, like the frequency get more. So all these are sign of frustration, or they're just testing it that, oh, now I can have my owner 24/7. I should
Yeah.
do that. Then should
Okay.
we allow? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So I want to because your question about frustration first, right? Frustration usually manifests in a way in which is negative. Like for example, that when you mentioned aggression to other dogs that he or she was used to, right? So that to me is frustration.
Okay.
Yeah, frustrated. Why? Because firstly, he or she has been practicing social distancing also, right? So the exposure was not there during the whole circuit breaker period, or it was minimized, or even the energy of the owner who was holding the other dog is different. Now the owner is more like apprehensive. So the dog might feel that, hey, things are changed now. Now when I approach this dog, my owner is apprehensive. But the dog doesn't know that the owner is apprehensive about this whole COVID thing or about talking to you, right? But the dog just senses a little bit of a difference in the perception, right, of the interaction. So interactions have also evolved. Interactions have become a little bit more at a distance. Interactions have also become shorter or rushed, right? Because faster, okay, meet, okay, don't want meet, then go, right? So these changes, right, can result in changes in your dog's perception of how socializing is right now. Yeah. And to be honest, if we want to keep our dogs the same way, right, even in light of wartime or this pandemic, we have to keep things normal in order for our dogs to also stay normal. Yeah. So the structure, right, should more or less be the same. Now, if you talk about like changes in energy level, sorry, your question was also you had two parts.
One is the changes towards the fur kids.
Yes,
the other one was
the cleanliness.
Correct.
That one is what you've been practicing at home during this whole work from home period. Yeah. So if you've allowed them to be near you, not say touching you, but if you've been allowing them to be slightly nearer to you as opposed to last time you were not even at home.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Then your dog will start to think, hey, it's no longer, nowadays afternoons are no longer spent alone. Nowadays afternoons are spent with my owner, right? And that has an effect on what we call pack drive in a dog. The need to be with a pack, because dogs are social animals, right? It's actually unnatural. We've actually trained them to unnaturally accept that humans are going to leave home when we work. Yeah. So now when we are at home, we actually put them back into pack drive.
Okay.
Yeah. So then they are going to, from this day onwards, practice doing something that they've been practicing at home.
Okay.
Yeah. Then, third lesson, we'll probably have to talk about how do we reintegrate our socially distanced dogs to the society.
I think just nice because we do actually have some Q&A sessions submitted by our attendees before the webinar itself, but we will go through the one that's actually live first, because I think it's very related to what both of you have been talking about, and it's actually from Abigail. But please, Ethan, if let's say, for example, if you feel that you can actually better help her situation, right, let us know so that we can actually allow her to, engage with you via audio directly. So Abigail asked, right, so quite apart from frequency of walks, how should we gradually transition the interaction with our dogs, particularly since we work full-time, thereby rendering us incapable of providing her dog, Bruno, with 24/7 attention like he has become used to during this circuit breaker period?
Now, wait, when she talked, is she going to move into further into work from home, or is she going to start working outside?
Let me see if I can.
Let's see if she can like give an answer in the Q&A.
I think interaction with our dog.
Okay, let
because
me see.
Some of this will be addressed in the second and third. So the second webinar, I want to cover how do we keep our dogs stimulated at home. Like what are some activities that even though we are working from home, we will have to do, right, to keep our dogs discipline still there and structure still the same.
Oh,
Then
that's
the
important.
third one would be about what should we be doing if we have to plan in future whereby we have to start going back to the office.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, to put it simply, right? In the first place, always look at how much activities that you have for your dog first. Now break it down into two, physical and mental, right? Physical, the simplest activity that we can do are walking, right? Sometimes it would involve doing dog sports, right? You talk about going to a dog park or you talk about going for agility. Now, I recommend these sports for physical training because they'll still involve a bit of structure. Yeah.
Okay.
Sports, they still have to follow some rules. So it's like playing a game, right? And following rules. There's no use playing a sport whereby the game has no rules. You get it? So there's no use running around hitting the tennis ball without any rules. Yeah, off and out. You understand? So physical activities with still rule-based physical activities, including your walks. Now, if you move away, slightly away to more physical and mental activities, you'll be talking about socializing, right? Socializing has a ton of physical as well as mental rules. Physical wise, meaning, for example, if you socialize, right, you can't be too close because the other dog's going to view it as rude. So there is a rule as to how close you should be or how nosy you can get with another dog. And it differs from interaction to interaction, right? Then there's also the mental aspect as to what do they do when they are dealing with their dog. Do they go into play or do they go into explore? Play. So these actually keep, so to me, actually interactions and socializations are actually quite important aspects to even your dog's life as much as it is to your own life. Yeah, but you must also view it objectively. You can't view it as if I'm an introvert, so I should expect my dog to also be introvert. No. Even though sometimes the dogs reflect the human's nature, right? You should always look at your dog. What benefits your dog? Yeah. You understand?
Then would you like us to share the poll results now?
Yeah, sure. I want to see whether there are any changes.
All right.
From the first one.
The first one, okay.
And also, Abigail, if again you have any quick follow-up question that you'd like to ask Ethan, please feel free to enable your audio. If not, we will move on to the next question later on.
Hi, thanks. Abigail here.
Hello.
You hear me? Hi, Ethan. Hi.
Yes.
Hey,
Hello.
thanks for the question. Yeah, so we'll be going back to the office full time actually. So Bruno will be at home most of the time.
Yeah.
So we probably would be away about from maybe 8 plus in the morning to about 7 in the evening. So that will be quite a stark change to his current lifestyle because he's been so used to us working from home right now.
Yeah.
And also he has started to associate like dressing routines with us going out. So when I start to dress up and all that, he would either roll on his back and asking for belly rubs or hide near the bed and acting up quite a bit. So we start dissociating him from this exit rituals, and as well as how do we start to transition the interactions with him so that he becomes more used to life without us 24/7.
I think you should start ASAP, right? Don't wait until like 1 week before you start working from the office to actually start the change in the structure. So meaning that like I would advise a lot of my clients who have dogs with separation anxiety, who are still working in the office, right? But they don't have time to train. So I'll tell them weekends would be your best time because you're at home. You can actually leave your house, but still monitor your dog. So you leave your house, meaning that maybe you go downstairs, get a cup of coffee. Then maybe if you can install a webcam or monitor through a phone. Or you can just step outside your house, but to the lift lobby and notice and hear whether there's any changes in your dog behaviors. So the key to any change, right, whether it is from before COVID to COVID or now to the future, right? It's just don't do it the CB style. CB hit us, right? Like in a second, like, hey, tomorrow everybody cannot go out. So don't do that. The key is progressions. So if your dog is, so look out for whether your dog right now is good at staying alone for even 1 minute or 5 minutes. So if your dog is good at staying alone for 5 minutes, then I will encourage you, do the changing routine whereby you are going to go out, right? And then because you know that your dog is good staying alone for 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes first. And then when you come back 5 minutes later.
Okay.
Then the next time, right, you do 15 minutes. Yeah, but at the same time, if you hear your dog complaining, you have to come back into the house, tell your dog to sit, stay, right? Or ask your dog to move away from the door, right? That's a more coping mechanism to settle your dog down, moving away from the door, right? And then you disappear, and then you complete that 15 minutes that you wanted to. Even though at 10 minutes, your dog was starting to complain a bit, right? Do it in this progressive way to the point in which your dog starts to be okay staying 1 hour, whereby you went down for a chat with your friend for 1 hour and your dog was fine. Then from there, you can start to be a bit more confident. Maybe next time you can do 3 hours, go shopping.
Okay.
Yeah. Then after that, you can expect the transition to your work schedule, which is 6 hours away from you, to be more pleasant. Now, even at home, if you don't have the luxury of stepping out of your house and coming back in and doing that, you might want to start practicing a bit of social distancing at home with your dog. Meaning, like, for example, if you watch TV and if you still allow your dog to be near you, right, then you're reinforcing attachment. You are creating more attachment for your dog. So this is something which I would want to demonstrate in the next lesson, right? Which is having a little bit of distance and maintaining your dog's state of mind in a calm, relaxed manner, right? Because right now, chances are, if your dog has been practicing being close to you or being attached to you, right? Chances are, if I physically go there and carry your dog 2 steps away, your dog might start to want to go back to you. He might not be doing this, but mentally, he might be longing to go back to you. Pretty much like how a mother who never allows her child to be carried by other strangers, that child has more difficulty coping with being around other strangers. So practice a little bit of social distancing, even at home first, on your own first, before you even do the one whereby you step out of your house. So you can even do Bruno in another room and you are in this room before you even step out of the house to practice.
Okay. I think that's Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right. So we have another question. This is actually from before the pre-event. I think I will go through the questions of those attendees who are currently live with us, so that if let's say there's any kind of follow-up question, we can enable their audio. So our friend Vincent, his Shiba Mochi, he asks, is usually more compliant to my commands than my wife. Is it because of the different tone of voice? What would be your advice to make sure our pets do not selectively listen to only one family member?
Okay. The funny thing is, I know you, Vincent, and I know your wife, and I know that your wife, right, is very gentle with Mochi. Yeah. So the one thing that I might require or actually encourage people to do, right, if you have differing respect levels coming from your dog already at home, take the chance whereby you're working from home, right, to monitor your spouse and kind of give guidance and ask your spouse to do certain activities. For example, instead of, let's say you are always the one preparing the food, or you're always the one asking the dog to do something, right? Or washing the paws, these kind of things. If you are the one doing it all the time, please take the chance and ask your spouse to practice. Ask her to take more responsibilities, so that in a way, sometimes the scope of work that is being done by one person can actually determine the relationship or how much respect or trust that you have with your dog. Take take, for example, I'll just use my example, right? Most of the time, for me, I'm the one disciplining whether or not my dogs are going to be excited or not with humans, right? Whereas my wife is going to go entertain the humans. Yeah. But let's say my dog doesn't respect my wife as much, then I would want to switch it around. Yeah. You have to. Without the practice, you can't actually do, you can't actually achieve what you want, which is slightly more respect. So if your wife has taken charge a lot of the affection part of the relationship, the giving of the treats, giving the food, the physical affection, then maybe she should take over the challenging or the leadership part of the relationship. Like, for example, bringing to a walk, disciplining, not in a physical way, but like verbal discipline, right? Or also more things like, for example, staying away from being attached to you. So if your dog clings on to you, Vincent, Mochi clings on to you. I'm not sure whether that's the case, but if Mochi clings on to Vincent, right, then your wife should be the one enforcing a little bit of distance for you.
Okay.
Okay, Vincent, if you have any follow-up, next 3 seconds you can enable your audio. If not, we will move on to the next question. Okay.
3, 2, 1. So was there a difference in the answers for the first poll and the second poll? Did people actually change their answers?
Let's see if we can get Leslie to share that.
Yeah.
And then we'll revisit the
Leslie's scrambling.
The poll. How about maybe we move on to the next question first?
Okay, sure.
Next questions, right? It's from an attendee who is currently not here, but I think it's kind of like a general questions would actually help the rest of the attendees as well. It's pretty general, I guess. So she would like to actually ask questions like how to potty train dogs at home, how much is enough food for your dog, how to avoid my dog resisting me during walks, stopping in the tracks halfway.
He sounds like a very nice guy. He sounds like he allows the dog to pee as and when he wants.
Maybe
he sounds like he allows the dog
what to do when my dog wants to harm another dog. So maybe perhaps a new dog owner, but please feel free to answer.
Yeah. For me, that is a list of multiple issues in a lot of people's minds, right? But I only see it as one issue, which is structure. Now, if you talk about a dog potty training, right, or even a baby potty training, sometimes with babies, you just need to set the schedule. You feed, then you know 1 hour or how many minutes later they're going to poop, right? So with a dog, with regards to where to poop, right, confinement or a reduction of space, right, is your key, is the answer. Because right now your dog is picking where the toilet is. You have not designated, or you've not made it clear enough, or you've not given him a chance to understand that you should only poop in this little area. And this little area can differ from household to household. Some people use a playpen, some people use a room, some people use the toilet, right? So sometimes you need to keep the dog in there for a sufficient amount of time, depending on whether your dog gets it or not. If your dog doesn't get it, then you might need to keep him or her there inside longer. Now, the reward should always be there the moment the dog toilets. So once toilet ready, you should be there to physically praise, and the reward is also coupled with freedom. Yeah, that's how I encourage people to train puppies for potty training. You need to reduce the space, because sometimes it's a matter of giving too much space. Now, let's talk also about structure in terms of the walk. If the dog is pulling, right, the only way is to tell your dog where he or she should be. Like, for example, shortening the leash that you have. That's also a reduction of structure, or rather a reduction of freedom. So when we talk about humping also, right? The dog has all these options of interacting with a dog, but it chose to hump, right? So that should be corrected, or that should be limited, or interrupted at least, or blocked. Yeah. The human has to play a role in keeping the choices of a dog limited to just sniffing, playing, exploring, not humping. Yeah. So sometimes when you give, so let's say with kids also, you give them A, B, C, D, right? Sometimes they pick A, which is not what you want. So how do you help the kid make a right decision? You only give A and B. Then maybe you pick B. So with dogs also, with more structure, there is a less, you lessen the chance of them doing behaviors that you don't want. And I always tell them, it's a balance between freedom and control. If your dog has more freedom, you're likely to have less control.
Sorry.
Right? Only until you trust the dog, or the dog has understood how to control its freedom, then you're able to achieve the balance. Yes, Kimi.
Benefit of being able to talk to you face to face. Okay, I just have one question. What is the most effective and immediate for, let's say, owners who don't really have much of an experience of controlling the dog? What's the most effective and immediate way of letting our dog know, no, you shouldn't be doing this?
The leash. The leash is my best friend. Yeah,
Okay.
because a lot of people view the leash only for walks. So when they take the leash out, the dog gets super excited because that's the only thing that they've used for. I mean, every time they take out the leash is to go out for a walk.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Now, I'm not suggesting to leash your dog at home, right? For me, I view the leash as something that connects to a sensitive part of the dog's body, right? But also one of the strongest part of the body, which is the neck, right? And it's sensitive enough such that if you tug nicely at the leash, you can actually deliver a firm negative consequence to your dog, which is like, no. Tugging the leash to the side, right? This I recommend for people who are not used to actually having any form of physical interruption in place for the dog. So if they're not able to tap the dog and tell the dog to stop it, right? And the dog's also not listening to the voice command, then you have the option of a leash. Yeah. So it applies everywhere also. At home, you can use a leash. For example, you're teaching a dog something, not to bite shoes, for example. You put a leash on the dog first. You put a shoe in front, right? You step away. The leash is still on. So let the dog drag the leash around, not saying leash somewhere. So let the dog drag the leash around. The dog performs a behavior that you don't want. You step in, you take the leash, and you as a reminder, right? That helps you not need to have to tap the dog, right? Or do anything physical like holding the collar, right? It's a simple, short reminder. Yeah. Right? And it reinforces your audio with physical. Because the dog not only hears you, the dog is going to feel you saying no.
Okay. All right. Kai, you can continue.
So Leslie is able to share the second poll results, but not the first one. Shall we pull it up? Okay.
This one is the second one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one person actually said frustrated.
So medium is the highest.
Okay.
And I think that's a strong. I think there was fewer medium in the first poll results, if I remember.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So they're more low. Yeah. So sometimes this whole CB thing, right? You actually end up confining the dog's options and energies also. So they always are going to find more things to do at home, and people will view it as an increase in the dog's energy level. Yeah.
I think we still have a bit more time to probably go through maybe 2 questions. And there's one I actually spotted that I think it's very relevant for the circuit breaker season.
Yeah.
So the attendee asks, the dog is actually experiencing selective aggression towards other dogs in a dog run after the circuit breaker.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, he's wondering how can that be handled?
Well, firstly, we have to understand that not only your dog, right, is experiencing the post-circuit breaker syndrome of being socially distanced. A lot of all these dogs are also re-entering the dog park, having a history of a lack of socialization. Yeah. So to me, sometimes it's a matter of paying attention to those kind of dogs. Now, I'm a person in which I take the view that I don't need my dog to be friendly with everybody, but also I don't need my dog to be like tolerant of all behaviors, because some behaviors dogs will correct each other for it, even though you might not see it as a correction. You might see it as a fight, you might see it as a scuffle. Yeah, but sometimes some behaviors are just not acceptable, and these behaviors do come from frustration or pent-up excitement from other dogs, right? So number one, I also don't view, number two, I also don't view going to a dog park as a must for my dog to go and interact and play with every dog and make friends, right? Sometimes if you find that the dog park does have dogs who are not suitable or who are not complementary to your dog, you might want to give it a little bit more time for the dog to actually be a bit more tired, because some people, they don't walk the dogs, they don't tire the dog before they bring the dog to the dog park. They use the dog park as an outlet for the dog. So that's going to be annoying for a lot of other maybe lower energy dogs or more sensitive dogs. So sometimes I like to time my training sessions for some of my clients who have reactive dogs to be, let's say at the early morning, so that my dog is also well exercised first before greeting other dogs. Or if my dog can be a troublemaker, right? I will bring my dog in only after a walk or at the end of the popular timings for the dog park, because that's when I will meet slightly lower energy dogs who might be more tolerant of my maybe less well-behaved dog. Yeah. And sometimes, yeah, if it's really the case whereby the owner is, or the dog is really not going to get along with any of them, maybe you can go in a group, right? Go in a group and walk as a group first, so that he enters together with at least the same level energy dogs together. Yeah, that's gonna have a bigger presence, and that's gonna help your dog integrate better, rather than him, one person, right, having one kind of energy and then he's meeting different kinds of energy.
Yeah. Okay, perhaps we can take the next 1 minute or so to open the floor to our the rest of our attendees, if they have any last minute questions that they want to cram in before we wrap. We can have tips from you. But I
today
think
is
it's just
also
like
the first step of recognizing that, hey, even though my dog might not have reacted negatively to these lockdown periods, right? Maybe before COVID, my dog already has certain things in which I would like to change, or there are already certain things in which you might be reinforcing wrongly. So my first lesson, whenever I conduct any group classes, is always about acknowledgement first. So, and also taking the chance to observe from a third person's point of view and not take it as my baby point of view. Yeah, because most of the times when I go and visit clients who have problems, it's not that because they don't know that they have a problem with the dog. It's because they perceive it as, number one, they can live with it, or number two, it's not so bad. Yeah. Or number three, they take the biased view in which this is my baby. And sometimes I just want my dog to have that freedom. Yeah. Until I go and emphasize, like, okay, I brought it into a bigger proportion and tell you, what happens if your dog is 20 kilos heavier next time when he's grown up? Or what happens when your dog is more frustrated, in which situations like this can happen? Then all the problems that might seem small becomes bigger.
I see.
Yeah. So always look out for these first. Then the next lesson will be like even though we are in lockdown, what can we still do to mentally stimulate our dog? How do we still maintain a little bit of discipline and structure? Yeah. And I'll share like some of the things which I would do for my dogs in my daily routine as well.
Okay. That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Deborah asked, whether this is actually recorded so that we can actually rewatch it again. Yes, Deborah, if this is actually recorded, you can actually visit us on our Workwell.SG Facebook page, which I will actually share in the group chat in the chat section right now, so that you can have the link, and then when it's actually up, you can check us out there. If not, let me just flash a screen so that, if let's say Ethan can go on sharing, just hang on a while.
Okay.
So I think Ethan still has, I think today we are really just touching on the surface only. I think Ethan still has a lot more to tell you all about what you all can actually deal with your dogs. But yeah, I mean, as we're actually wrapping up, right? Please remember, this is actually only the first out of the 3 series section. So again, like what I mentioned at the beginning, right? Please follow us on our socials. It should actually be within the next couple of 2 weeks, because actually now things are actually slowly opening up. So we are kind of like finalizing the dates as well. But please follow us on our socials, and let's say if you have friends who might be interested, get them to look out for the registration of the webinars as well. All right. If not, I will still give Ethan a couple of minutes to actually wrap up. But if you're actually going to go off early, right? Please spend us a minute. If you can actually just scan the QR code on this screen that you're actually seeing right now, and leave us a feedback. And yeah, we will actually see you in the next webinar. But please feel free, Ethan, if let's say, or any of you all in the if you all want to wrap up any of your last Q&A.
Actually, for me, as how I will always end each training session, each private training session of mine, I always give my clients some homework. So I want, before the next session, probably people can go and think about some of the things in which they do to teach their dogs new stuff. Whether it's a new trick or whether it's a change in routine. Let me know, like, what are the things that you've been trying, and even then you realize maybe if you have something that you might be missing while you're trying those new things for your dog, right? Then we can address it in the next session.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, for example, try to teach your dog a new trick before the next session, and let me know if you have any problems or not. Because that's some of the things in which, or change like the waiting or change like the feeding ritual. Instead of waiting for one bowl of food, right? Make it wait for multiple bowls and for multiple minutes. 3 minutes this bowl, then the big bowl wait for 5 minutes. Then these are things in which we can always do from home. Just like during CB period, a lot of people start working out from home. So we can also do that for dogs.
Okay.
Very cool.
Okay.
We are just touching the surface today. We can't wait for the next few sessions. But thank you, Ethan, for the wonderful session.
Kimi, you have anything as a sorry.
I mean, it's just kind of opening up the mind that a lot of things that we think the dog is feeling this way, but it's actually a result of the owner action. So I think I will start before the next session. I will observe Taco's behavior a bit more. Then I think I should be able to point out probably some of the issues itself better.
You
because now it's
you mentioned something very important in which I think I didn't emphasize, which is owner's actions. I'm actually very, very glad that you mentioned that, and you view it as that some of these things might have resulted from owner's actions. So specifically for you, right? Or actually for a lot of dog owners, look at what you have been reinforcing for your dog. So even a little bit of like sayang for your dog, right, is a form of reinforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, some attention, hello, is also a form of reinforcement for your dog.
I think so, leh.
Yes. And, and on the flip side, besides reinforcing, what are you failing to follow through on? What are you failing to stop, or omitting, or just not doing anything, or the dog is ignoring you?
Okay. Actually, I did send the dog for certain training, because when I gotten the dog, I was told that he's super active, and indeed he was. But I feel that he maybe is just trying to get attention. So I do have problem of getting him to settle down. So I did send him for some training, but I would admit that I didn't follow through closely, especially it comes to walking. To make sure that I'm really walking him and not that he is leading me through.
Yeah.
So, but to me is that because they always use treats, and I don't really give my dogs treats, those small treats at home. My treats are either fruits or those kind of dry jerky, which I only give treats when I leave home. So he knows that when I'm going out, he will have a treat, and then he will settle down. I don't know whether is that a good thing or not. But,
we'll touch on that the next one.
Yeah, the next one is
because there are psychological differences between using treats and not using treats.
Yeah.
And as well as the type of tools that you use for your dog.
And also one more thing is that yes, we all enjoy when the dog is able to perform certain tricks,
Yes.
But is there any positive benefits for the dog, or you are just performing for the owner's pleasure?
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that I always ask.
They feel good when they do something that you deem is nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So a dog that enjoys doing a trick and getting a food from you is the same dog that would enjoy jumping on you and you are pushing or petting. Yeah.
Okay.
And he can actually view it as play. So it's the same concept.
Okay.
Yeah. But we will touch on more specific like actions that you do. Yeah, because sometimes you use treats. I'm not against treats, but sometimes you use treats. You have to use it accurately. Yeah, not all the time, but also sometimes in terms of people that don't practice detachment, like they reward a lot of attachment, but they forget to reward independence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we will touch on that.
That will be the next one.
Session. Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Okay, I think we should. We can go on the whole.
Yeah, thank you so much for this very informative and wonderful session, Ethan, Kimi, for being the live participant. So until next time, we'll catch you all again on our next webinar. Please enjoy the next of your Sunday, okay?
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.
Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.